They laughed at lions. That was the first insult. The tribunal chamber shimmered with crystalline walls, humming with the quiet arrogance of an empire that had cataloged galaxies like children flipping through a picture book. Archivist tacticians of the Ort Dominion raise a claw and conjure holoscreen. A lion sprinting across the savannah, muscles rippling like liquid bronze. The alien council murmured, unimpressed. Brute force. Predictable ambush. Bound by hunger. Zith intoned, his voice sharp as a blade dragged across stone. Your kings of beasts are slaves to instinct, noble only to your primitive eyes. The chamber echoed with polite, metallic laughter. Captain Elias Vera leaned back in his chair, chewing on something wrapped in crinkled foil. He had been silent so far, letting the aliens preen in posture, but his smirk only deepened as their scorn thickened. His uniform jacket was undone, collar crooked, and he carried himself less like a diplomat than a man reluctantly attending a PDA meeting. They're not wrong about the lion, Elias muttered, around a mouthful of microwave burrito. Big cat's just a house cat with an overdeveloped ego. Ask anyone who's owned a tabby. Several alien eyes turned toward him. The council disliked interruptions. Elias pretended not to notice, licking cheese from his thumb. Zit continued, unfurling the gallery of Earth's predators. Tigers leapt, crocodiles thrashed, sharks carved through dark seas. Each dismissed, each reduced to inefficient, lacking adaptability, trapped in archaic cycles of hunger and rest. The laughter swelled. The Ort Dominion's predators, engineer horrors bred on war moons, were displayed in counterpoint. Beasts with chitinous armor, venom that boiled flesh, mandibles able to shear starship plating. They prowled in holographic majesty. You see, Zith said, triumph curving his words, your world breeds spectacle. Ours breeds supremacy. The humans in the audience shifted uneasily, but Elias only tilted his head back and sighed. Spectacle, huh? You've seen the opening ceremony of the Super Bowl. The council ignored him. At last, Zith spoke directly to Elias. Captain Vera, are you prepared to admit your world's inferiority? This trial of ecosystems will prove beyond doubt what we already know, that Earth's predators, and by extension Earth itself, are unworthy of the Dominion's respect. Elias stretched, yawning theatrically. Then he stood, burrito in hand like a holy relic, and met the archivist's many eyes with weary amusement. You're mocking lions, fine. Tigers, too, whatever. But you've missed the point. You catalog the celebrities. You haven't met the janitor behind the curtain. A ripple of confusion spread through the chamber. The janitor? Zith repeated. Yeah. Elias held up a finger. Small. Ugly. Meaner than a tax collector in 1980s America. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the honey badger. He tapped control, and a grainy hollow of a squat, scruffy creature appeared. Striped, low-slung, unimpressive. The chamber erupted in derision. Laughter clanged like gongs against the crystalline walls. This, Zith hissed. This is your hidden terror? It resembles a damp rodent. Elias took another bite of burrito, chewed slowly, and smirked. Yeah, keep laughing. That's what the snakes do, too, right before it eats them. The Dominion, insulted, declared a demonstration. The arena floor unfolded beneath the tribunal, like the petals of a steel flower. Predators were summoned, one after another, to prove Earth's weakness. First came lions. They leapt with regal ferocity, but against armored chitin beasts they were cornered and felled. The council chuckled. Then crocodiles. Their jaws snapped, their tails thrashed, but once outnumbered they withdrew, slithering toward shallow pools that weren't there. Elias, watching with disinterest, muttered, classic, nature's equivalent of quitting halfway through a Netflix series. The laughter rose again. At last, the honey badger was released. It looked absurd, half the size of its opponents, waddling forward with shoulders hunched. The council's mirth peaked. Then it lunged. The badger hit the first beast like a living blade, teeth sinking into an armored joint. Chitin cracked. The alien predator shrieked. The badger released only long enough to claw its face, then twisted free of a blow that should have pulped it. The chamber fell silent. Another beast struck, piercing the badger through the torso. For an instant the creature sagged. Relief rippled through the council. But impossibly, the badger turned, jaws clamping on the attacker's throat. ripping until black ichor sprayed across the arena floor. It would not stop. Elias leaned against a rail, his voice casual, almost bored. See, you don't get it. This thing doesn't fight to live. It fights because existence annoys it. One beast, then another fell. The honey badger took wounds that would end any sensible life, but it did not register them. Bloodied, limping, it still moved forward, eyes burning with a fury no tribunal could quantify. At last, the sixth opponent collapsed, throat torn open. The honey badger staggered, collapsed in its own gore. The council exhaled in a collective sigh of relief. But then, slowly, stubbornly, it rose again. Its body was wrecked, organs surely ruined, but still it dragged itself forward, claws scraping, teeth bared, toward the railing, towards it himself. A sound not heard in Dominion halls for centuries echoed then. Fear. The archivist recoiled as the honey badger hurled itself against the transparent barrier, snarling, eyes locked on him as though he were next. The chamber dissolved into chaos. Aliens shouting, recoiling, some even fleeing. The beast struck the barrier once, twice, a third time, before finally collapsing in a heap. It lay motionless, a small, broken shadow. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then Elias exhaled, slow and deliberate, wiping his hands on a napkin. He looked at the frozen council, their pride shattered, their supremacy mocked by something half the size of their boots. Gentlemen, he said softly, welcome to Earth. The tribunal could not answer. And here, reader, lies the first truth you must never forget. Greatness is rarely found in crowns or in roars that shake the sky. Sometimes it wears the face of a ragged, ridiculous thing that refuses to bow, that crawls forward when logic says die. Remember this. The world will laugh at what looks small until smallness bares its teeth. And perhaps, one day, that lesson will be yours as well. The honey badger did not die. That was a rumor, whispered along corridors of crystalline steel, passed like contraband from alien mouth to alien mouth. The tribunal had adjourned, but the memory lingered. 6 Dominion predators slain by a creature so small it could be mistaken for vermin. And worse, its final act had been to crawl, snarling, toward the feet of archivist tactician Zith, as though the most decorated strategists of the Ort Dominion were prey. Zith had not slept since. He sat now in his private chamber, staring at the faint scratches on the barrier where the beast had struck. His hands trembled, claws clicking against one another in a rhythm that betrayed his unrest. 1,000 years of Dominion history, reduced to farce by a striped animal that seemed not to understand death. Captain Elias Vera, on the other hand, had slept like a stone. He arrived the next morning with hair unkempt, jacket half-buttoned, and a cup of something steaming in one hand. Coffee, he explained when it gave him a suspicious look. The fuel of gods and exhausted parents. Want a sip? Zith hissed in disdain. You stand on the ruins of your world's credibility and drink bean water. Elias shrugged. Bean water kept us alive long enough to invent starships. Don't knock it. The tribunal reconvened under heavy atmosphere. Murmurs rolled through the chamber like a rising tide. Delegates of rival empires had gathered as spectators, drawn by rumor. The Dominion could not ignore this humiliation, not when whispers already accused him of weakness. Zith struck the floor with his staff. The demonstration continues. Yesterday's spectacle was an anomaly. Today, the truth will be restored. The arena bloomed once more, its floor shifting and folding. From the gates emerged a shadow draped in living void. The Zarathian Void Stalker. Its body was liquid shadow, its teeth rows of obsidian knives, its eyes 2 suns eclipsed. Entire colonies had fallen before it. At its presence, silence claimed the chamber. Elias set down his coffee, eyes narrowing. That's not fair. No, Zith said, his composure steadier now. It is decisive. The honey badger was released. It limped into the arena, body stitched with wounds from a previous day. To any rational mind, it should not even be alive. Yet it moved forward, low and relentless, as though survival itself were a minor detail. The Void Stalker wasted no time. It struck, engulfing the small beast in its gullet of shadow. The tribunal exhaled relief, finality, at last. But Elias only smirked, arms crossed. Wait for it. A muffled snarl erupted from within the creature. The stalker convulsed. Its throat bulged. Then claws, tiny, bloodied, absurd, tore through black flesh. The honey badger forced its way back into the light, dripping ichor, eyes burning with primitive fury. Gasps swept the chamber. The Dominion's most revered predator staggered backward, flailing in something that looked uncomfortably like fear. Elias chuckled, low and dangerous. We thought Florida Man was an isolated case. Turns out he's cousins. The void stalker lashed again, shadows flaring, but the badger clamped onto its neck, tearing, thrashing, immune to reason or biology. The impossible was happening. The apex of engineered terror retreating, step by step, from something that weighed less than a sack of potatoes. Zitha's composure cracked. This is unnatural. Unnatural? Elias shook his head. Buddy, that's Tuesday on Earth. You should see cats. They kill for fun. They bring you the corpse like it's a Valentine's Day gift. The void stalker shrieked, a sound the galaxy had never heard. It turned, fled back toward the gates. The tribunal sat paralyzed, their myth unraveling in real time. The honey badger collapsed at last, drenched in gore, unmoving. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Zith rose, voice trembling with fury. Enough. This trial is concluded. Remove this abomination. But Elias did not look at him. He looked at the silent assembly, at the thousands who had come to see humanity humbled, and had instead witnessed something else. He spoke not loudly, but his words carried like a knife across velvet. You wanted to measure us by lions and tigers. You thought greatness was in teeth and muscle, but you missed the truth. Dignity isn't in the obvious. It's in the stubborn will to crawl out of the dark again and again, even when logic says stay down. That's humanity. The honey badger's just our mascot. No one laughed this time. The tribunal adjourned in silence, its pride shattered. But the honey badger's victory became wildfire beyond the chamber walls. In the markets of rival empires, traders snickered at Dominion weakness. In military halls, strategists whispered, what kind of world breeds such creatures? What kind of species venerates them? Zith wandered the corridors at night, armor discarded, dignity unraveling. His thoughts spiraled. If Earth produced monsters in shadows, not thrones, what else might be hidden? Humanity had arrived as petitioners. Now they stood cloaked in quiet menace. He returned to his quarters and froze. There, atop his ceremonial boots, sat the honey badger, alive, snarling. Its claws scraped leather with deliberate malice. Zith screamed, a sound his attendants had never imagined he could make. The creature lunged, teeth fastening on his bootstrap, refusing to release. Guards rushed, nets unfurled, chaos erupted. And through it all, Elias arrived late to commotion, coffee in hand, eyebrows raised. You left food out, didn't you? That's on you. The guard subdued the beast eventually, though subdued meant only that it grudgingly allowed itself to be carried away, biting everything it could reach. As it collapsed, humiliated beyond measure. That night, Elias sat on a balcony overlooking the city of glass and stars. Lyra Kale, a fellow envoy who had once dismissed him as careless, stood beside him in silence. She had seen his calm through the storm, his easy humor when fear should have ruled. You weren't afraid, she said at last. Oh, I was, Elias replied, sipping his coffee. But I've been afraid of worse things. High school prom, for example. She smiled despite herself. For a moment, they stood together, quiet, watching the lights below. And reader, here's a lesson the tribunal learned too late. Never mistake appearances for truth. Power is not always polished, nor is defiance always beautiful. Sometimes it limps forward in ragged stripes, bleeding but unbowed. Sometimes it gnaws on your boots just to prove it can. Remember this. The measure of worth is not survival of the fittest, but survival of the most unwilling to quit. And if you carry that within you, nothing in the cosmos can truly claim victory over you. The honey badger became legend, not just in whispers or nervous laughter, but in proclamations etched into galactic murals, in new songs sung by traders who had once sneered at Earth. Across stations and citadels, the tale spread. A creature that would not die, that crawled out of the throat of the Dominion's god beast, that gnawed the boots of their most honored tactician. To some it was comedy, to others terror. But to all, it became a symbol. Captain Elias Vera returned to Earth with the weight of that symbol heavy on his shoulders. He walked down the streets of his hometown, where gossip followed like persistent shadows. Shopkeepers whispered. Children pointed. That's the man who unleashed it, they said, half in awe, half in disbelief. Mothers scolded their sons. Don't be reckless like him. And yet the men at the bar raised their glasses when he entered, as if he had personally proven their own stubborn grit. Elias endured it with his usual shrug, burying unease beneath sarcasm. He bought microwave burritos in bulk. He fed stray cats that stared at him with disdain. He drank coffee too late at night and pretended his hands didn't tremble when he dreamed of the tribunal chamber echoing with fear. Lyra Kale, who had once stood aloof in her polished uniform, now sought him out often. She did not flatter him, did not ask for stories. She simply joined him, walking, sitting, sharing silence. When he cracked jokes about Chuck Norris or duct tape, she smiled, not at the words but at the man beneath them. And when he grew quiet, eyes shadowed, she let the quiet remain, as if that too was worth keeping. But the galaxy had not forgotten humiliation. Zith and the Dominion burned with shame, and shame festers into obsession. Word arrived through diplomatic channels. The Dominion would not let the matter rest. They demanded one final gathering, not a tribunal but a convocation of empires, where Earth must stand before all and prove whether its defiance was strength or trickery. Elias was chosen to speak. He laughed when he received the summons, a dry, brittle laugh. Figures. One lousy mammal ruins my retirement plans. Yet he accepted, because he knew refusal would mean humanity labeled coward forever. The convocation was held in the Hall of Infinite Echoes, a vast chamber carved into an asteroid, where sound itself lingered long after words were spoken. Delegates from 100 empires filled the tiers, their voices murmuring like a restless sea. At the center stood Elias, alone but not alone, for the eyes of Earth were upon him. Zith towered opposite him, gleaming in ceremonial armor, voice sharpened by vengeance. You mock us with beasts. You humiliate us with vermin. Today you will answer. Is this the truth of your world, or was it deception? Elias looked around at the assembly. He could have spoken of lions, of armies, of the fire in humanity's history. He could have argued strategy or evolution. Instead, he reached into a small carrier at his side and set it down. The sound of metal on stone echoed like thunder. The door swung open, and out waddled the honey badger, alive. Ho! Snarling with the same eternal fury. Gasps swept the chamber. Some delegates recoiled. Others leaned forward, riveted. The beast strutted across the floor as though it owned the galaxy, claws clicking, eyes daring anything to move against it. This, Elias said, voice carrying with calm weight, is Earth, not the pretty parts, not the noble lions or the soaring eagles. This ugly little bastard. It takes the worst the universe throws at it and refuses to quit. That's us. Zith laughed bitterly. A carnival trick. You define your people by vermin. Elias smiled weary and proud. You define yourself by fear. We define ourselves by defiance. And if that looks like vermin to you, then maybe you've forgotten what survival actually means. The badger lunged suddenly, snapping at a decorative cable that ran along the dais. Sparks erupted. Lights flickered. The chamber plunged into semi-darkness as diplomats scrambled, voices rising in panic. The animal chewed contentedly, unconcerned with the galactic order collapsing around it. And Elias, standing in the dim, raised his voice above the uproar. You see? This is why you should respect us. Not because we're the biggest, not because we're the strongest, but because when everything falls apart, when even the lights go out, we endure. We laugh. We keep going. That is what it means to be human. The chamber fell into awed silence as systems flickered back to life. The honey badger, having finished its conquest of the cable, waddled back to Elias's side, as if it had merely proven a point. The convocation ended without a vote. There was no need. In the days that followed, the Dominion found themselves the subject of ridicule, while Earth was courted by allies once indifferent. For the first time in its turbulent history, humanity entered the galactic stage not as supplicants, but as equals. Yet Elias did not return triumphant. He returned quiet, walking once more through familiar streets where gossip had grown into myth. Children now played games pretending to be honey badgers, roaring with exaggerated ferocity. Merchants sold shirts with its likeness. He chuckled at the absurdity, but his eyes were heavy, for he knew symbols can become burdens as much as blessings. One evening, he sat on his porch, a stray cat curled disdainfully in his lap, Lyra leaning against a railing nearby. The stars stretched endless above them. "You terrify them too," he murmured to the cat. "Little murder machine." The cat ignored him, licking its paw. Typical. Lyra turned toward him. "Do you ever regret unleashing it?" Elias shook his head slowly. "No, because it wasn't about the animal. It was about us. About proving that worth isn't measured by crowns or by size. It's in a refusal to bow. And if a honey badger had to teach the galaxy that lesson, so be it." They sat in silence as night deepened, a silence not heavy but alive, threaded with unspoken connection. Somewhere far away, the rest of the galaxy argued, schemed, remembered. Here, there was only the sound of crickets, the weight of stars, and the quiet truth of two people who had found each other amid chaos. And you, reader, must take this with you. The world will test you, mock you, dismiss you as too small, too strange, too weak. Do not measure yourself by their scales. Measure yourself by your defiance, your refusal to quit when reason says quit. For even the smallest creature can claw its way out of darkness. Even the ragged, ridiculous thing can remind the universe what dignity truly is. And perhaps, when your moment comes, you too will stand, scarred and unbowed, and prove them all wrong.